Hello everyone, welcome back to Looney Bin. My name is Looney, and today I want to talk to you about an interesting idea, an interesting theory of mine concerning Tifa, the weapons, the live stream, and all the good fun stuff that we saw in the Gongaga chapter of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Now, for those who do not know or don't want to be spoiled by what happens in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth or even the original Final Fantasy VII, this is a warning right now that there will be spoilers in regards to those. So in case you don't want to hear about it, if you don't wish to watch the remainder of this video, I fully understand. So here we go. So what we know so far is that Tifa fell into the Gongaga reactor because of what occurred between Sephiroth egging Cloud on because of how close he was to the Mako. Cloud strikes Tifa. She falls into the Mako reactor, and as she's trying to escape, the weapon that was inside the Mako reactor comes up and swallows Tifa.
She's not Tifa.
You're not Tifa. You can't be.
We've been over this. I do have a scar. I showed you, remember?
Liar. But I'm no fool.
In the Ultimania recently, they talked about where Tifa falling into the Mako reactor would have been where Rebirth left off, which would have been crazy to think about, you know? But they decided not to end it there, and it's interesting what they did decide to do. So what happens after the weapon swallows Tifa is that now we are in the live stream. And Tifa is inside the big materia belly of the weapon, or the baby weapon, as we now know from the Ultimania. And she is there going through the live stream. She's seeing parts of her memory that she actually forgot when she was a child. And the memory that we see is the memory of the day her mom died, or maybe it was like the day after her mom died. I think it was the day when her mom died. She decides that after knowing or hearing previously about a story about where the people who died go to like a certain place behind the mountain.
You remember how our parents used to tell us that when a person died, their spirit would cross Mount Nebo?
She tries to go there to see her mom. And the boys, Cloud was like way behind, but like she and three other boys who were, friends with Tifa, who were, part of her gang, decided to follow her and take her there. One by one, the boys decided to leave because they thought it was dangerous, but Tifa didn't stop. Tifa continued going until it was her and Cloud left on the bridge. Cloud was trying to, protect her, trying to get her to get off the bridge because he knew that she was not in the right state of mind to go about the bridge, as well as it being a very dangerous bridge, right? In the story, specifically in the live stream sequence in the original and in Trace of Two Paths, this book right here, which I highly recommend getting and reading because it goes into depth more about not only Tifa's backstory, but also Aerith's backstory. So definitely a read. But, the bridge collapsed. Cloud tries to rescue her. He was able to at least protect her somewhat, but unfortunately not fully, and that caused Tifa to get injured and basically lose that memory of that incident. And the only recollection she has of that whole situation is what everyone else has told her. She had a feeling that something wasn't right about what they were telling her, but she couldn't refute it because she had no memory of it, and she knew that Cloud wasn't the type of person who would be egging her on, but she couldn't necessarily, tell the truth. Like, she didn't know anything because she didn't remember exactly what happened. In the live stream sequence, we see that Tifa sees that. We see Cloud telling Tifa to stop, come back.
Tifa, stop! We have to turn back!
And it's a really, really great preview of what could happen, well, not could, but what will happen in part 3 during the huge life sequence to basically help Cloud. Black Whispers started showing up alongside White Whispers. The weapons were following along with the White Whispers, and next thing we see is literally Sephiroth appearing in the live stream, going down and striking Tifa. Tifa avoids it, barely, inside the belly of the weapon, and eventually Sephiroth is like, fuck them babies, fuck them baby weapons, and slashes or drives his sword through the weapon to injure it and essentially scare it away.
Sephiroth?
Because there's a conflict happening in the live stream. I made a video on the conflict in the live stream. You can definitely check it out if you wish. But yes, Sephiroth is there to stop Tifa or stop the weapons from going any further in the live stream. And then the next thing we see is that the weapon comes out of the Mako reactor, spits out Tifa, and gives her back to the party. And she says goodbye to the weapon and wishes the weapon good luck, and the weapon disappears. Now, why is this incredibly important? Because the weapons are going to be a huge part of part 3 for the Final Fantasy VII Remake project, as they were in the original. Now, there are some weapons you don't necessarily see because I think the game designers back in 1997 just didn't have the capability of bringing in every single weapon to have certain events happening, which I think they will be able to do in part 3, where we see only a few weapons. I think we see Sapphire, we see Ultima, I believe, and some other weapon. I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I played the original, but one weapon that I do know that we meet is Sapphire, who's the one who helps Tifa escape in Junon, and I believe Ultima, the one that comes out of the Northern Crater, the very big one, shows up in Mideel, right? But before we get to more on that subject, I want to talk more about exactly what does this Gongaga sequence, this whole lighting sequence, and Tifa's relationship with the weapons is about, because it's, I think, a very important aspect to really think about by the time part 3 comes out. This whole Mako Gongaga reactor stuff wasn't necessarily in the original. It wasn't at all. It barely even, you barely even go to Gongaga. Gongaga is like a side option thing, but in Rebirth, they made it a much bigger plot of the story, and they connected it to several things. We find out more about the weapons. We find out that the weapons are being formed inside Mako reactors, meaning that the planet is getting very close to a point where it's being threatened by Sephiroth, and we see Sephiroth actually in the live stream fighting, weapons, the whispers, and all that stuff. This is a connection to Tifa in several different ways. I made a tweet about it, so I'm going to expand more on that tweet. You can definitely check it out. I'll post a link to the tweet down below. But essentially, Tifa is going to have a big connection to the weapons, and you see it in Final Fantasy Rebirth past Gongaga, specifically in Cosmo Canyon, where Tifa is surprisingly, and this is a very big change in Cosmo Canyon, because this necessarily wasn't in the original, where Tifa talks more about the live stream and stuff like that. But Tifa talks about the live stream a lot in Cosmo Canyon to Bugenhagen, to a bunch of other people, even in a seminar, and she talks about the live stream as if she saw what exactly is happening. While a lot of people didn't believe her, especially Bugenhagen, who was like, please, girl, You don't know what you're talking about. Here, go to a seminar, actually learn something. You know, he was kind of like a dick, which is odd because what I remember from Bugenhagen is that he wasn't like this. I don't know why they made him out like that, but apparently they made him into like a boomer, where he just refuses to believe anything new and just thinks that his old way of thinking is actually factual, which is really weird that they made it into that. I don't understand. So it's kind of weird. But we see in Cosmic Canyon that Tifa does talk a lot about, you know, the live stream and the weapon specifically. There's a moment where there's a loud noise and you see different reactions.
That's...
The planet crying out. A sorrowful dirge indeed. One I've heard all too often of late. This tubing allows us on the surface to hear the inner voice of the planet.
What we just heard didn't come from the planet, though. That was definitely the voice of a weapon.
And she says that it's not the sound of anything, but it's the sound of the weapons. It's a cry from the weapons. And she hears it more soothing because I think she's more connected to the weapons. Aerith doesn't really connect with the weapons until when she is in the live stream, right? When she dies, she goes into the live stream, right? But I'm not going to get into the discussion about that whole sequence about is Aerith alive, dead, in another reality in the live stream. Too much. I do think that she is in the live stream because it's a huge part of the story, and it's kind of needed for her to be in the live stream to, you know, face off against Sephiroth. But the point of this video is going to be about Tifa's really much bigger role in regards to the weapons that wasn't really shown much in the OG. So now that Tifa is now more connected with the weapons, because they essentially, I think what occurred in the Gongaga reactor is that the weapons wanted her to see something. They wanted her to see the live stream. They wanted her to see what's happening in the live stream, the memories, her memories, because I think they're trying to show her the key moments that she will have in part 3 in regards to her memories and of essentially Cloud's memories. We even see the whispers and the weapons protecting her memories from Sephiroth. And I think that's why Sephiroth was trying to attack her. Not only was she trying to prevent her from seeing her memories, but he's also trying to destroy her memories. Why? Because when she remembers or she understands what her memories are, she's able to literally contradict a lot of the stuff that Cloud remembers. Like in Nibelheim, Cloud remembers that Zack died, but the problem is that he's remembering it entirely wrong. He's not remembering exactly how Zack died, because the way he remembers it is not the way Tifa remembers it, because Tifa remembers it being like an infantryman who died, but not Zack. Because to Tifa, her memories are different from Cloud's, where Zack was the soldier and Cloud wasn't there. But he was. Well, essentially, you will eventually get to that point at some point. But there's a key thing there, and that is that the moment Tifa understands and can confirm what her memories are, the more she helps Cloud with his. And Sephiroth does not want that, because Sephiroth still wants to have control over Cloud. He still wants him to be his puppet, or Sephiroth and Genova's puppet. The moment that they lose that puppet is the moment that they technically lose, because now if Cloud is fixed before, you know, they get to the northern crater, guess what happens? They can't get the black materia from Cloud, because Cloud is essentially going to become that puppet. You see parts of him being a puppet during the, you know, Temple of the Ancients, when he's like just be like, you know, picking up the black materia, you know, doing that, and going after Aerith, asking her to give him the black materia to then give to Sephiroth. You see that, and it gets worse and worse the more you venture into the Northern Crater, because that is where the reunion happens, especially in the OG. Who knows what they'll do or what they'll change in Part 3, but we'll see. But having Tifa be closely connected to the life chain of the weapons is huge to me, because it can relate to specifically 2 moments that happen in Part 3, or the latter half of the OG, that concerns her memories, Cloud's memories, and reviving Cloud, the protagonist, to eventually go and defeat Sephiroth. So, in the OG, after the events of the Northern Crater happen, Tifa winds up in Junon as a prisoner. She gets stuck in like this torture chamber, and Scarlet all of a sudden, pours gas into the room to try to kill her. Essentially, what happens is that Sapphire destroys or makes a hole for Tifa to escape. Now, in the OG, it was just a coincidence. I think people were just like, oh, wow, this weapon is all of a sudden just suddenly helped Tifa. That's a pure coincidence. It's like a Deus Ex Machina type of situation. Tifa just got lucky. But now, with this new addition in the Gongaga Mako reactor stuff and Tifa being the life stream with the weapons, you now can link it to Sapphire essentially helping Tifa to escape. Not as like just a random or pure coincidence, but as them trying to get Tifa away from Junon so that then she could go find Cloud, who right now, at that moment in time, is dealing with Mako poisoning. His mind is almost shattered, or like completely shattered, and the only way to revive him is by going to his subconscious. And the key thing that I like to point out is that the weapons in the Gongaga chapter are baby weapons. They have like a blue, pink, colored texture to them, and they kind of look like fish. Sapphire, according to a few of the designs for him, of like, character designs for him, kind of, if you really want to get in depth to it, have not only the same color scheme as, the two weapons that we see, but also it is kind of like an aquatic animal. And Sapphires can come in many different colors. It could come in blue, yellow, pink. Yellow and pink are like one of the more rarer versions of Sapphires, and it's the more desirable ones. So Sapphire isn't necessarily blue, but it can also be pink, and that's why I think when the time comes when the Northern Crater incident happens, those two weapons essentially either become two different weapons, or they fuse together to become Sapphire. Sapphire then goes out and saves Tifa in Junon, allowing her to escape, and then, along with the other party, go find Cloud. Once she finds Cloud, she's there trying to help him in any way she can, but there's nothing she could do. He's just filled with Mako poisoning, his mind is shattered, and he's just basically, unconscious. Or, conscious, but like, basically what Jesse's dad was dealing with in Remake. So, next, what happens? Eventually, once you do a bunch of other quests, you come back. Ultima suddenly arrives because the life stream is erupting from under Midil. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. But the life stream is trying to erupt from underneath. All of a sudden, Ultima comes in. It is one of another weapon that essentially is like the bigger weapon that you see at the Northern Crater. And the party fights it, but you can't beat it. You have no shot of beating it. And then eventually, after 3 attacks, he leaves. He goes, woo, and goes away. Now, my thinking, if we're using this as if I'm using this theory as something that could happen, Ultima was there because the life stream was erupting from underneath Midel. The point of him being there is to distract the party, because Sid does tell Tifa to stay inside and look after Cloud while they deal with the weapon. Once the weapon flies away, the life stream starts to erupt. The point is that they're trying to prevent Tifa from leaving with Cloud early. Then, as the life stream erupts, Midale is slowly getting destroyed. Tifa runs out, but unfortunately, they both fall into the life stream where the life stream sequence happens. So, once that happens, her memories is key to fixing Cloud's memories, and you go through the entire sequence, and eventually you save Cloud and, bring the real Cloud back. Finally he's back. He's no longer, making up stuff that he's Zack from Zack's memories and stuff like that, but it's the real Cloud, and she's happy to finally see him. So I think this is a great thing that they did in Chapter 9, the Gongaga chapter for Rebirth, because now you have a connection that essentially leads the weapons and Tifa to helping save Cloud. And the reason why the weapons are doing any of this is more than likely because the life stream understands what it needs to do. The life stream itself is kind of sentient in that while it cannot directly involve itself in certain stuff, it uses stuff like the weapons, stuff like the whispers, even giving Aerith some abilities to interact with the outside world to, you know, protect itself, to defend itself and save itself from whatever destruction, in this case, Jenova and Sapphire, and what they're trying to do in terms of corrupting, you know, the life stream. So that is why I think it's an awesome thing to see, and I think it'll be a really cool connection that they make down the line in part 3, where the weapons help Tifa, and then Tifa essentially leads to the resurrection, the revival of Cloud, which they then go and defeat Sephiroth and save the planet. So I think that's a really cool thing. I think those two weapons are essentially going to become Sapphire, or maybe two separate weapons, right? I think they're going to fuse together because they do also remind me of Pisces, because they're two fish that swim around like how Pisces used to, and I'm also a Pisces, so that will also be a bonus. But yes, that is my theory, that the reason why they had all this sequence happen in Chapter 9 is because those weapons will eventually become the same weapons, or the same weapon that helps Tifa get to Cloud in part 3. And it will tie in, or at least solve the, not necessarily solve, because it's not really a mystery why Sapphire showed up at Junon. Because the weapons just do whatever they want technically in the OG, so there's not really much of like a mystery as to why they show up, but it's a nice connection that they can now add as to why Sapphire showed up and specifically created a hole in a very specific place where Tifa is to help her escape. It'll be a nice connection because now the weapons are now connected with Tifa in some form or way, and the live stream is essentially making her one of the people to really help out. She's not a Cetra. She's not like anything like that that some people I think probably think I'm trying to say here. No, she's not that. She's not gonna have like a full-blown connection with the live stream. It's just that the live stream is trying to get Tifa to realize that she can essentially be very helpful in not only saving the planet but saving someone who she has known since she was a child, and that she became friends with, and eventually, even in Trace of Two Paths, mentions that she did fall in love with. So I think that is such a cool way to connect the two things together from the original in terms of Sapphire and the light stream sequence, and it's going to be very fun to see if they do connect it that way. I will be ecstatic if that's the case, because it just gives more an important role to Tifa, because her role is already important in part 3, especially the latter half of the game with the way she helps Cloud. But it just gives us more juice to that notion of Tifa being that heroine of the latter half that she is. And that would be so cool to see. What do you think? Do you think I'm crazy? Do you think it's plausible? Do you think I'm, out of my mind? Let me know in the comments below. I think it's a very interesting thing to see Tifa have some sort of connections now with the weapon in some form of capacity. So let me know what you think. Hopefully you have some comments, maybe even add some more to this. It'll be really cool. So thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Subscribe. Thank you.